Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a very special Tuesday night. You know what time it is, you know the drill as well as I do. It's SIMSeniors. We're back for the Season 12 Championship. We thought we'd waste zero time here, jump straight into qualifying, and right out the gate, the bronze class cars are making a scene. We're here at the beautiful circuit of Imola, excuse me. I had a sort of catch in my throat there. But we're here at the beautiful circuit of Imola, also known as the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari, if you want to go by the official full legal name, of course, but that's the equivalent of calling me Benjamin instead of Ben. My name's Ben Sapsford, by the way. I'll be your guide for this evening. We're on board with one of the promising talents here for the bronze class, that being Mr. Foxall. Now, in that Lamborghini has shown themselves to have a solid amount of pace, although their race performances so far haven't quite reflected the pace that is otherwise on display. If you take a look at their results thus far, we had, say, 33 points on the opening round and then a 14-point finish on round 2. So not ideal, as North has continued to go from strength to strength and holds a perfect opener of the season with a double win. First and second place being hotly contested right now, although North with 80 points and Arscombe with 62. I'm going to see if we can find him on track. Mr. Arscombe, where are you? Let's see if we can find him. We've got 44 cars as well, worth mentioning, on the circuit today. The field is now making their way through as the session is getting fully underway for tonight. Times are starting to peel through. We're just updating the timing board for you, and you can see here a 42.292 has just been dethroned by Mr. Bowler, and more cars now making their way through to the line. Dizzy, aka Roger Dismukas, now coming up with a 6th position, a 44.4, although immediately dethroned quite sharply by Sean Murphin in that not Lamborghini, in the McLaren. Sorry, what is going on with my perception this evening? Or jump straight into things. We have John Gabbett making an appearance in the BMW. Of course, we still got Craig Holmes as well out on track right now. They're one of the sole Audi runners after we saw Lenatus making the switch off. And curiously, he's in the GT3 Evo 2. So, certainly a track weapon. I will say, I cannot get over the look of the pretty raucous GT2 variant of that Audi. It's such a ridiculous design. You combine that with that massive hood scoop, or the roof scoop even. It's ridiculous. The visual design of that car is something else. But we're seeing the drivers now go through for their second runs. Curiously, we are not seeing Mr. Arscombe out on the track, at least not from what I've seen thus far. Could this be a situation where P2 is conceded by nature of a lack of presence? Could be for Zimmer here, if Zimmer is on the track tonight. Yes, he is. This could be Zimmer's chance to leapfrog Arscombe in the table. Although we just got confirmation that Arscombe is in fact on the track and making his way round now. Did previously get a 211. He was kind of buried in the standings, but let's see what he can push now. 43.1. That Aston Martin is here and here to stay, folks. There's no signs of slowing down. But with P2 on the line right now, it's no chance to rest on laurels. We've got John Gabbett as well, 56 points in 4th position. If he didn't have a points penalty, he would be right on par with Zimmer. So has got just as much of a point to prove as he comes up to the line. And we've got 3 minutes and 30 seconds left before the classes change hands and before the silver racers start to make an appearance. See a solid run there. 42.632 from the Beamer. That's enough for the top 5. Is there going to be anyone who looks to challenge that mantle? Here comes Alex North, of course, current season leader in the bronze class with a, I want to stress this, a perfect record so far. 2 wins back to back. This racer has just gone from strength to strength. I'm not sure whether it's him finding his footing in the bronze class, him switching from the Aston Martin to the Porsche. Whatever he's done, it's working. Whatever magic you've got on the table, keep it up, Mr. North. He comes up to the line here. Is there enough for an improvement? Unfortunately, he's a quarter of a tenth shy. Daniel Groch coming up to the line, though, and is going to dethrone him with a 41.9. Though that cannot touch the current leading time of Mr. Bowler with a 41.7. Very impressive stuff indeed from the bronze field, but we are running out of time, as the racers are going to soon be starting their final runs before they have to get out of the way, as the silver drivers are going to make their debut onto the course. Qualifying in this format is always a pretty exciting one. Sometimes it can be more of a spectacle than the race itself. Race, you have to pace yourself to consider strategy. It's more of a metagame than it is moment-to-moment pace. But qualifying, especially when you have 3 classes changing hands on the circuit, just as soon as you think things have calmed down, it's the next wave, it's the next class. They're making an appearance and really rocking the racetrack. Not to mention, the later classes have that rubbering in and that natural compound being laid down by the cars that came before. So soon to see, crossing the line once more, Vauxhall looking good and making some sizable improvements on his Delta relative to his prior lap. This could be a new pole for bronze here. Here comes Vauxhall up to the line. Thumbs up, what's it going to be? It's a 41.6! 41.6 flat, ladies and gentlemen. New pole for bronze class. And with invalidations coming in from Bowler, Groch, Gabbert, beggars the question, will they get a chance to really show their pace in full form on this field? Here comes Derek Neve, is going to jump ahead of Stuart Holmes, if slightly. How is Holmes going to respond? Neve's going to head into the pits. He's decided that's his last run. He's had enough. Holmes is going to come through with a 42.3, just 2 sole milliseconds behind Craig Morrison. As he's on the push now, Vauxhall remains on the track. He's going to give it one more try before he calls it time, as some of the other bronze class drivers have decided to concede themselves to the pit lane. Meanwhile, you can see everyone in silver is now lining up, getting themselves ready to go, and most importantly, mentally preparing themselves for the qualifying trial that lays out. Hope that everyone is having a lovely evening. In other notes, unfortunately here in the UK, the weather has been, shall we say, torrid. Not been the best. And today was no different. It was quite rainy on the way home. And I saw a report earlier today that apparently it has rained every day in the UK, in some area of the UK, since the start of the year. Which is both simultaneously ridiculous and also completely believable. It is the UK. That sounds very accurate to the weather we do get here. But I hope everyone is having a lovely time wherever and whenever you are in the world right now. Groch coming up to the line as final runs of bronze are wrapping up. 41.6 from Groch is going to get him into second position, as there is an improvement in the dying moments for bronze driver Craig Morrison. That is going to be the last bronze run, and now the tide shift. See, coming over the hill, and in silver for this season, Mr. Lenatus, piloting the Nismo. Now, I was going to save it for when the gold class cars come on track, but as some in the chat have pointed out, it is a very special day for a certain driver out on this course. And, well, I say driver, but he's really much more than that. Mr. McNair. I want to take a moment just to appreciate this guy right here. Now, Mr. McNair, this is your 1,000th race with SIMSeniors. And not to mention the amount of effort and the amount of time that you dedicate. There you go, give us a flash for the cameras. The amount of time, the amount of effort, and everything you've been putting in alongside the team behind the scenes to keep this place going, as well as having the commitment to do 1,000 races. I don't think adjectives and words can really do it justice. So, amazing commitment, amazing person, the reason I am here, and best of luck in your 1000th race, buddy. More than deserve it. Let's make this one a good one. And it's a good track to have the 1000th on, no less. One of the most storied tracks in the motorsport calendar. So here comes through Linatus. Back onto the silver swing. Come to the complex that is Acqua Minerale. I say this every time we come here, but it's the most finicky to get right, and it's so easy to miscalculate your trajectory on the bottom side of that effectively triple right-hander. Because you have the first right to tee yourself up, you have the right hand again, posting yourself into the corner, and then you have a slight deviation as you come up and crest the hill. That is where your grip is at its highest, because you've got the camber pushing you into the road physically. Momentum, you're ascending up, and that's where cars can get skittish and where you see a lot of drivers misjudge their lines. That's what makes it such a complex part of the track. But here we go. First silver times through on the boards. What's it going to be? Linatus, the benchmark, 42.0, immediately up to... I think I've got hiccups or something. Immediately upturned with a 41.3. That is from Tommy Hellstrom. And more cars now making their way. Here's Derek Hall in the McLaren. Up to the line, it's going to be a 41.9. We're seeing benchmarks around the 41 mark for the silver, which makes me very nervous and excited for the gold. Felix Wildner in his BMW, the number 87 Pixel Pilot's car, is a 42.1. Solid P10 so far, although I imagine he's got more that he wants to climb. Last of the initial run here, it's James Payton in the McLaren also. And like with the Audi from Mr. Linatus, I can't unsee James Payton in that classic checker-style Mercedes AMG. It's very difficult. Once you get used to a driver driving a car for such a long time, it's very difficult to change your position, to change your mental perspective. I'd still see his name, and I expect that almost monochrome with that hint of red and blue to come up. But no, say, always room for a change. And it clearly seems to be working out in his favour in the same way that North's car change has given him such good results thus far. Here comes Hellstrom with a second bite of the cherry. He's already leading with silver pole, but he could get further. 41.2 projected right now, and potentially gaining even more time through the last sector. We could see a low 40 here. What's it going to be from the Lexus? That car has seen a bit more seat time this season, so let's see if that pays off. 40.9. Beautiful run. Beautiful driving here so far. Hellstrom representing and holding the Wolfpack flag. For this half of the field anyway, it's looking like quite the turnout. Here is going to be Hamby coming across the line in P3 so far with a 41.5, just behind Payton's 0.427. A few more cars soon to make their way up to the line. Here is once again Wildner. They're an improvement here from the Beamer. It's a 41.8, so he's going to jump up a couple of spots, and that might be the push that separates it for him here. Here's Payton up to the line as well. 0.427 to beat. Is it going to be enough? It's a 0.445, so not quite there, sadly. Got a lot of different characters on this field tonight, so the 44 strong grid should give us plenty of action moments here, and quite a busy field. Hey, always nice to see a busy field on this. Key to success here at Imola is to not get overzealous with the throttle pedal. It's as simple as that. You've got to be careful coming out of Acqua Minerale as you straighten up for turn 13. You've got to time yourself out of the chicane before you get to Rivazza. Too early on the throttle, we've seen many a driver go spinning round the Villeneuve chicane just before you settle your nerves heading into Tosa. Again, drivers tend to understeer. It can be very dicey, so throttle control is the name of the game. If there's one defining factor for success, it's going to be that. Tirano, though, with a 41 flat and a very impressive run to closely challenge, although he's not going to get another shot here. Might be better off they're calling this one time, maybe even a return to pit if he can get around in time. A couple more cars now running and finishing things off. Here's Iro. Comes up to out of the Tamburello chicane and into Villeneuve. Keep the smooth inputs of the cars. 42.4 here for the Porsche pilot. He's been a stalwart driver for multiple seasons now. Things have been nice and steady for him, although hopefully this might be the season that he can see maybe a podium finish, because he is very close in the standings. He's 4 points away from Peyton. And even though that is post-penalties, there is still a lot to be looking forward to in his case. He's got 10 kilos of less ballast. Peyton's got 15. That might help in his favour. That 5 kilo difference will have a marked difference on the driver's rotation in particular. The final 90 seconds, final chances for runs. So we see up the top is Lenatus with a .132. Can Vasuri get up with the rest of them? 42.2 projected, 232 in the end. It's a P14. He's going to leapfrog a lot of the bronze class cars and just tee up behind Wildner. But in the same breath, that is going to be Wildner gone as he gets himself up into P6 with a .4. 41.4, it's nothing to turn your nose up at. Here is Peyton. He's going to improve once again with a .120. So just a couple of crucial tenths behind the leaders. Final 30 seconds, and if we sort of peek our eyes over to the pit lane, you can see second verse, same as the first. There's quite a few cars that are trying to tee up and get an early jump out of the pit lane here. And we'll see that's no different for the silvers as it is with the golds. There is everyone sort of lining up ready to go. And we can see again the Lexus getting a lot of love, which I do very much appreciate. I was a big Lexus fan back when we saw it in prior seasons. Very much a Lexus fan. If I see that car out there, I'm a very smiley boy, safe to say. Just trying to think of who was the pilot. Yeah, trying to think back a couple of seasons. So that was, I do believe, that was Damien Reed. That was. Sorry, just trying to sort of think back. You say it was Damien Reed who was that sole Lexus pilot last time. He really was a standout. Yeah. Certainly was a sort of crowd favourite here. There, we're getting a bit of info here. So, awful quali, had a migraine all weekend, had to finish my Sim PC rebuild last minute. Wow, that is... I don't even have like a comment about that other than you, trooper. That is commitment right there. You only got it up and running around 10 minutes before quali, which is, again, ridiculous stuff. So, with all that context in mind, I would say qualifying went pretty okay. I think you've got to consider and take it into context what you had to do to just get to the track, mate. So, I'd say cut yourself a little bit of slack. Yeah, I think all things considered, I think taking it to track alone, nice achievement. And yeah, work on colouring time back, of course, but All in perspective. All in perspective. So, gold class cars now on the track. Final 10 minutes. The track is fully theirs. And let's see what they do. The push laps across the field as everyone just wants to get that banker in now. And right up at the sharp end of things, we have a certain gamer currently sat with 41 points. Is going to be pushing hard. Now, a curious thing in the standings is that Blom is actually in second place. The reason for that is that he was handed 10 points penalty for some of the, shall we say, moments that occurred, and that has resulted in him being knocked down a peg and put 4 points behind a certain Ferrari driver. Maximilian Grosges currently stands tall as the lead of the Gold Class Championship. And there is sort of no real response other than I'm certainly looking forward to what this night holds. As I say, Blom did get the win last time out. Got a second and then a first place. But the driver's penalties would have a word with him on that one. Starting to see some times come through. Guillemard is our initial benchmark and he stands with a 40.4. So immediately some rocket ship pace out of the gate. Question is, can the rest of the field respond? We're on board with Grosges right now as he goes through Aqua Minerale and is going to be, they want almost a litmus test for the pace of the sharp end of the field. Marsh comes through with a 40.8 at the top of the standings. And Björklund, along with O'Wiggle, are going to be in the low 41s with a 0.2 and a 0.3, respectively. Johan Larsson, 41.362. But here comes the rest of the field, the rest of the troop. Few key invalidations here as well to be mindful of. Blom has just set a 40.577. So how is Grosges going to respond? Remember, championship leaders right now. He's going to come through. It's a 40.877. So 3/10 exactly behind second place. Lang is going to be in third as well. So Lang has got a bit of work to do here. And he's got no time on the board officially as of yet. These are almost invalid / out runs. But this could still be pretty interesting. Of course, this is the part where we pose it over to you watching in the live chat at home. Who are you pinning as the driver to come out on top here tonight? Whether that's a particular class, whether that's all the classes, or even an underdog. You know, we love these kinds of questions, so over to you, chat. What do you think is going to happen? What's going to go down? Of course, best of luck to all the drivers that cross these sacred asphalt patches. 40.825 coming in from Lang, 4th position, just behind Dave Marsh. As sort of less fortunate from their initial runs. The other drivers are going to come through. Larson is going to start his next lap, as Blom is likely coming in to finish it. And is currently flashing purple. You know what that means. Not fish, but a new best time. Currently projected with a 40.1, could be even sharper, 40.0. We might even see a 39 here tonight, folks. We might even see a 39. 40.050, ridiculous pace on tap. But Grosges just gets an improvement here as well, 0.722. And a couple more cars who have yet to put a time officially on the board. For example, here's Holmberg, leave only driver yet to set an official. He's been looking a little bit dicey at that. So 41.2 last lap, but was invalidated. So if he can get this down, could be standing to reason. There is a 40, low 40 or a 40 flat waiting for him. Line for Holmberg. Last bastion of the golds. And it's a 41.1. So not quite where he wanted to be, but still a solid run. Marsh is about to come across the line. Minor improvement to a .750. Not enough to jump position. Here's Grosges once again, although very shaky on the chicane there. He's hemorrhaged what little deltas he had in his favour. And this looks like a run to forget for him, sadly. I don't think that this is one that's going down as a success. A wiggle, while third position, pretty well for himself. Kind of pretty well. 0.6. Couple of tenths shy of the top two. Lindblom, Guillemot in those benchmarks, but very impressive. And gives us a lot to think about for the actual race trim. Quali pace, as we know from rounds prior, and we've seen with the likes of Foxhall, for example, with the leading times that he's posted in qualifying, race and quali are different beasts. One does not simply translate quali pace into a successful win. It's a fundamentally different game. T coming up to the line. Guillemot is going to be running pretty hot, running pretty close. He's going to be negative on the deltas, or he's going to be up on time. It's a .06. It's just 17 milliseconds shy of Lindblom's time. Such a fine margin. Such a fine margin, and yet here he still stands in P2. There's Holmberg coming across the line with the time that he wanted all along, a .490. That's pushed him right up into the second row. How is the rest of the field going to respond? Zintas comes up to the line, the number 75 BMW. They've shown some good pace and moment-to-moment bursts, but can he codify that into a successful drive? He gets a P5 for the 40.5 flat. Will there be enough in the tank? As we see Lindblom head into the pits, he is done along with Marsh. Time's running out. Final 15 seconds. Wolfslander with a 41.0. AMR could have a chance here. Just needs to hold it together through these final corners. He's flashing purple. This could put him in the sacred 39s. He just needs to link those last corners together. He has to nail Ravazza here. Heavy on those brakes. A little bit of scrub. You can hear just in the distance the slight scrubbing of the tyres. On the curbs, definitely going aggressive. Time has officially ended. Last shots, last chances. He's no longer flashing purple. We might have lost just that tiny bit of time, and it's a slight downturn. It's a .127. Guillemot was so close, but he just couldn't hold it in those final corners. Last runs here for the others. So Coolan coming through with a P8. And an immediate jump as McNair gets a really solid 40.432. He's only just leapfrogged by Holmberg in the dying moments, but a very impressive run. I think finally it's going to be Johan Larsson, followed closely by, I believe that is going to be, I want to say Chris Bourne. I think that's Chris Bourne, so he has invalidated. Larsson comes through, it's a 40.9, and that is time, ladies and gentlemen. So, let's take it from the top, shall we? Lindblom. Another solid qualifying from the Pixel Pilots NSX. A 40.050, closely followed by Guillemot, his 208 Lexus. 40.06, number after 6. And Grosges finally with a 40.420, rounding out your top 3, the gold class. Silver is going to go to Mr. Hellstrom, number 660 Lexus. That is going to be a 40.9 and a very impressive pole time. Second is going to go to Pedro Serrano, the number 212 BMW, and a 41.017 is the time that he holds. Takes with him second place. Along with James Payton in P3 with a 41.120 in his number 248 McLaren. Finally, looking over to bronze, and it's another Heroic story here for Foxhall, but question remains, can he convert it in the race trim? Groich is going to be very close behind with just 7/10 or 7/100ths of a second in terms of time gap, 41.6 and 41.670 respectively. And then closely following is going to be Wayne Bowler with a very strong initial time. And that was sort of the benchmark that held for such a large part of the session until eventually dethroned by the other two. 41.767 here. And that is going to be your top three of all of these sets. Really impressive stuff here. And this is where we get to the fun part. We're going to take a small intermission, folks. And when we are back, we'll be with you in the track and for our full grid walk as the drivers get up to formation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, and just in time too. Time for our grid walk. Let's see what these racers have docket for us, and starting things off very strong, as mentioned, League Bomb, number 888 NSX, head in the front row alongside Gaimar in the 208 Lexus. Rodriguez is going to line up in third position alongside row 2 compatriot Holmberg, 231 Lexus as well. Then it's the Nismo row with McNair, the number 13, and of course Lucky 1000 today, lining up alongside Mr. O'Wiggle in P6. Zintars is going to be in the number 75 BMW against another Pixel Pilots driver, this time Matthias Lang. Closing out our top 10, it's going to be Nick Coolan in the lime green 51 McLaren, alongside the marshmallow adorned Mr. Marsh in his 27 Honda NSX. Next 10 is going to be Nicholas Björklund in the 444 Lexus for Wolfpack, alongside Pixel Pilots Victor Verfart in the 707 Aston Martin. Hellstrom, leader of the Silvers, the number 660 Lexus, goes alongside Johan Larsson in the 848 Lexus as well. Pedro Serrano, the 212 BMW, goes up against Wolfslenner in the 196 Ferrari. Mr. Payton, you can see lining up just alongside and briefly sort of saying hello for the cameras. His 248 McLaren goes alongside Leonardus' number 12. Ambi making an appearance and jumping up in the number 19 position, and the 84 Lamborghini alongside Chris Bourne to complete your top 20. 118 Ferrari. 21st is number 49 BMW, Chris Wilson, alongside fellow BMW driver Felix Wildner. John O'Neill, the 333 Mustang. Mustang not getting as much love this season. Which have dropped off a bit in popularity. Looks like a lot of McLarens, as piloted by Derek Hall and Robert Homer. Interestingly, the Lamborghini has made a comeback in a couple of places, like with Mike Foxhall, the number 42 right here, leader of bronze, alongside Groich in P2. And then Vasuri is going to be in his Porsche, stalwart as ever. He used to run that car through thick and thin. Wayne Bowler P3 for bronze, and then the rest of the field is as follows. Craig Morrison, 213 BMW. John Gabbett, the number 21 BMW. Much more muted colour palette, but quickly broken up by bronze leader of the championship, Alex North, the number 207 Porsche, with Stuart Holmes just behind in the number 2 Beamer. Rich Arscombe, number 76 Aston Martin, again a car that's seen less popularity as time has gone on. Derek Neve in the 39 Aston, alongside Simon Eads, number 25 Porsche 992 spec. Peter Smith, number 113 McLaren, alongside Sean Murphy. You can see just behind there the number 180 very vibrant colour scheme, and contrasted by the deep blue of Nisbet's 331 Nismo as well. Then the other Smith on the grid, number 199, that's David Smith with Ramon Lorenzo in the 162 Carbon Porsche, Craig Holmes in the 109 Audi, and then last two, it's going to be Dismukes, aka Desi, the 420 Porsche, alongside Randy Zimmer, the 141 Ferrari, after not setting a time in qualifying. Here we go. This is where it gets to the meat and potatoes of it all, folks. And for those who are new here, a bit of info on how we work. 1 hour race, mandatory fuel, optional tyres, optimal pit window around 30 minutes. No enforced pit window, but drivers tend to play it relatively symmetrical. Their strategies, so it gives you the most scope for options. Fueling up to about 35 minutes worth of racing tends to be the play, unless your name is Desi, in which case you go for 45 just to prove the point, and prove that you can do it. But all jokes aside, we do see a little bit of strategy variation, though most drivers tend to go right at the 30-minute mark. That is all what we are about to find out, though, so good luck to all drivers, and best of luck to everyone who's going to bring their A-game here today. Olin said it himself, 1.8 second splits to top 30, so the margins are finer than ever. The track is hot as we're about to go full force for an hour of racing here at Imola. The race is about to go green. We're our way. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Immediately, right out the gate, push is hard here for the front runners. Guillemard, Lindblom, drag racing side by side. Immediate defensive action. Here's going to be coming from, I believe that is going to be Holmberg just behind Grosquez. Kind of boxed in there. But McNair goes for a quick run around the outside. Immediately getting on the attack, on the offensive, wasting no time. Everyone's in close proximity. No room for error. Slots in nicely behind the Ferrari. A little bit further back, jumping on the helicopter. You can see it's 2 by 2 as multiple drivers are trying to stack up through the Villeneuve chicane. We do have an incident there as Derek Hall is in the pit lane, and we see yellow flags, accident flags coming up left, right and centre. Looks like we had a mighty scuffle throughout the lower half of the field, and we'll have to check in due course. Foxall also in the pits. Looks like we've had a couple of casualties here, folks, and things aren't looking good. Back up to the front. Tensions still remain high. McNair on the defensive at the same time, just trying to catch up and go past Grosquez. He's got a lot to push here to do, but he has got a crucial chance here with the field so closely congested. There might be a little bit more opportunities around the corner, but all about if he can pressure and keep those drivers' guards up, point where they maybe makes mistakes. And that is where things get very interesting indeed. Looking at that mid-pack once again, you can see the close, almost concertina effect between the drivers as there is multiple contact warnings. There's Smith, there's Nisbet, there's a few cars a little further down as well. Sean Murphy getting overtaken by Randy Zimmer right at the start of things. That first run through the chicane can be deadly with how much on-track congestion there is. Here's O'Wiggle, hot on the heels. And crucially enough, he's got a little bit of a problem of his own. Mr. Holmberg, despite being displaced further down, is not going to be getting an easy time. We see Victor Verfart having a bit of a squabble with Dave Marsh and actually coming out of the Tamburello chicane. A little bit worse for wear. Someone got dropped by Marsh there. That's put him right in the firing line of Björklund and Larson. Skatey rear axle, although similar from the others. That could put him under some serious strain. Not even 5 minutes into the race, folks. Things already got pretty spicy. Derek Neve has headed into the pits as well. So the number 39 car, not sure what the game plan is there. Looks like Hall and Foxall are going to be in there for an extended period of time, likely to repair damage. As the session has ground to a bit of balance now. After a chaotic initial lap, balance has been somewhat restored. The field is very tense. Soon to be that balance disturbed. Let's take a little bit of a wind back. Let's look at the shall we say the chaos that erupted. So this is winding back to the very start of the race. This is Arscombe right now. Arscombe's POV or Helicam focus We'll try and get a bit of a grasp on what happened before. See, the earliest flags are as close as the number 42 car, but you can just see the deluge of cars, multiple contacts, and things getting very quickly out of hand for those who are towards the back of the field. Fortunately, the back of the field can get quickly very scary, because what might have started as a very simple incident in, say, P8, by the time you get to P25, that is going to be an absolute bomb site. That is going to be anarchy. No such thing as a isolated incident when it comes to closely battled fields like this one. Unless you are extremely lucky or the drivers are very good with their incident avoidance as a whole, you're extremely unlikely to see a perfect getaway. There's always going to be some kind of casualty. So here we go. Here's Lang trying to really put down the hammer on Holmberg here. You saw him briefly teeing up for an attack heading into Piratella. And I work with Minerali. So far a fairly clean line, but he has been dropped proximity-wise to Lang quite substantially. Lang is in fact a little bit marooned as Holmberg is now trying to chase down, once again, the Wiggle. Not to be confused though, at the lead of the race things are going to also get a bit more interesting as the other Lexus, KMR, has made an appearance. And make no mistake, not here to play, here to reclaim what once was a championship fight between himself and the now Pixel Pilots driver. Do go side by side heading into the Tamburello chicane. Of course, space being afforded, these two know how to race hard but fair, and tonight is no different. Having to dip back a little bit, poor exit speed from the Lexus is going to relinquish the position back to Lindblom, but the fight is far from over. I mean, look at how these two constantly trying to gauge each other's moves, hold each other to a high level of pressure and to account. They know that one false move is going to be effectively a sacrifice. Perfection is the minimum. Beautiful showing here from the entire field so far, and barring a minor incident that we saw just earlier on, it has been very smooth sailing for many. We do have drivers now emerging from the pits. We do have the release of I believe that is Neve and Foxhall, although Mr. Hall remains in the pits. It's like we had some brief contact between Mr. Eade and Bowler, and Bowler is going to be under pressure. Here's Gabbert, ooh, smacking into the side of the Ferrari. The two are going to barrel off track. I think that was a wise move there from Gabbert to yield the position back throughout the exchange. Best thing to do there. Big chances here for major position changes. We can see, meanwhile, this is going to be Verfart and Marsh here once again coming to trade blows. Notice how the two still leave some space, though. That is good racing, although a bit of contacts there. Not ideal there. I think Verfart just sort of compromising and misjudging his steering corrections there. Maybe the linearity on the rack not quite where it needs to be, but Marsh, Verfart, they continue to trade back and forth. A little bit of slipstream goes a long way, even if it's not the most powerful. A little difference. Verfart is going to relinquish and go back to P11 for the time being. And we have seen a fairly segmented grid. Most drivers have been sort of staying within their respective classes. There are some exceptions, of course. We had the early shenanigans in the race. Bourne, for example, now P19. He's got to scythe his way through effectively 2/3 of the silver grid before he can rejoin his compatriots and really start fighting. Verfart continues to keep pressure high on Mr. Marsh. The same breath as being very much an attacker, an aggressor in this situation, has now had the script flipped on him, because Mr. Larson is now going to be the one showing him what it's like. almost as if to say, right, you wanna go for Marsh? I'll show you what it's like to be in that position. Let's play a little game. We do see brief contacts through some of the other drivers on the field. We had a yellow coming out for Mr. Wolfsteiner as he's come out of the pits now. P5 in the gold standings, currently standing in P1. More drivers making their way back out onto the field. Doesn't look like we're going to see the return, and in fact we have confirmed the retirement of Mr. Hall. So that brings us down to 43 starters out in this race. Hamby is going to go to the pits. Oh, we see Larson even sort of sizing up what could have been a threading of the needle. That's a risky move, and so he did still get the position, as I believe that is a back marker right there. Yeah, that's a bit concerning. I'm not sure what's going on. And oh, wait, that is a spin. That is Gabbert. Gabbert returns to the field, runs slow, and is now almost having to lie in wait for the field to clear. Just as soon as he gets a chance to actually move and return to the racing surface, more cars come through. No safe haven here for the Beamer. Elstrom, P16, was started in the lead of Silva, now currently stands in P4. Had to take a bit of a hit as we had Serrano, Warner and Lenatus all come and overtake him. Kind of a stressful situation to be in for Hellstrom, who started in that position of dominance and now has been displaced down a couple of pegs. Rough innings here for the Lexus driver, but I don't doubt that he'll be able to make a bit of a push and a comeback. Unfortunately, we do see McNair drop a couple of places, but that's not for lack of action, as we see a drag race side by side. Holmberg is going to make it to P4. He goes full narrow, full attack here, although might be to his detriment. He's bumping over the sausage curbs. He loses the car in the gravel, barely rejoins to safety in P7, as Lang is also going to take a bit of a swipe at his position and is going to get it. The McNair back up into P5, but has a chance for P4 here, as O'Wiggle is going to be in his crosshair. That's why I love this series. I love this series so much. It's just non-stop. The moment you get a second to think, right, things are calmed down now, you look at another area of the field, and it's all kicking off again. I mean, I could look at any point on the field, north right now, chasing down on Craig Holmes. He's had a bit of a difficult time here. You can see visual damage on his Porsche. And he's currently trying to keep up enough to where he can still retain that lead in the championship run. Most prominently, Arscombe is currently sat in P4, so the points difference here could be enough to dethrone him. One poor move here. One particularly heroic catch-up here could spell the fate of the Bronze Championship thus far. Same light that we see Hamby almost yo-yoing around the field at times, but still holding things together in his favour. Hamby has unfortunately had to take a very early pit stop as a result of the chaos of this race that we've seen. That opening lap, that opening gambit, of course, proving fatal for many drivers. Currently sat in P39, but could still stand to reason that he can play the strategy card, find things out, and even if there is a bit more of a compromise in terms of overall pace, very well stand to reason that he got himself a long-term strategy rethink. Oakland goes on the attack. Goody is the target, and the swiping of position into P24. That's going to go to Lexus. Now, that was almost textbook. No drama, little fuss, takes the inside line, nails the braking point. And, yeah. This is where I'd sort of have a bit of a spiel in a segment, but that was a genuinely just pure good overtake from Björklund. Well played from the Lexus here. 4:24. And we've got the 6 and 776. That is Matthias Lang, still hot on the heels, as McNair is going to be between the two Nismos. Pixel Pilots cars do have a chance to maybe work together a little bit here if they want to keep McNair at bay, but a number 13 car, we know he's got some pace under that hood. job. He's down the main straight. Just being able to peel out and really sort of open the taps. And this is the almost dichotomy that you do see on these racetracks. In the same breath as you have racers who thrive in the battlefield and thrive under pressure from other cars behind or in front of them, simultaneously, drivers put on their best performances and their best lap times, the raw lap times, the raw speed, when they are completely unencumbered by other cars. Purely from mechanics perspective, dirty air, downforce levels, temperature fluctuations, it all comes together in this sort of melting pot of strategy. So it comes down to what driver you are, what kind of driving style you exhibit as to how well you perform. But it's always an interesting observation, seeing what drivers really take the race in their stride, although things have not gone well for a certain Peter Smith as he's tumbling over the grass, coming out and into Tosa. And oh no, another one there. That's going to be sad case of, I believe that was liftoff oversteer, going into the grass and ultimately coming back out onto the track in P38. Well below where he wanted to be, and well, there will be a chance to catch up. We've still got 44 minutes here. It's work. It is work to do. Nicely done. Here's a good pressure by Holmberg, but just can't solidify the move. Good defensive here from Lang as well. Lang knows how to be a good attacker and defender here in this case, as it's clear he's feeling the pressure guys in the Lexus, but he's not going to bow to it. A little bit of a slide. I think Holmberg, in fact, overdriving the car a little bit. That tiny bit of oversteer combined with the fading line, the understeering into slightly over the curbs, that's put him outside of the half-second proximity that he really needs to hold this move together. Well, here's Edo on the back of Groich, who is in P2 for bronze right now. A couple of drivers heading into the pits prematurely. Marsh and Zimmer. Very early, very aggressive pit stops from some, and while I can understand those involved in the initial incident have gone in, less so the likes of Marsh and Zimmer, who have just come in now, several laps after the fact. Just completed their 9th laps of the circuit, so bit of a delayed reaction if that is the case. Dean coming in hot. Just as much as Holmberg has put on a good attacking display, Zintas has been lying in wait and almost playing it patient, but these beautiful execution here. Puru Ravazza, the double apex, holds the line and gets the secured position perfectly. Well played there from that BMW. An effective challenge, executed well, minimal drama and fuss. That's the kind of move that you want to be playing, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to have fancy back and forth battles that last half laps and have the most dramatic flair. Sometimes it is just simply a case of better positioning and holding your braking line to the T. Unfortunately, Wilson having a big off there. That's through the Tamburello chicane, and he's barreling off and jumping the curbs. Rejoins and regains composure just ahead of turn 5 of the Villeneuve chicane, but down in P19. Quite a drop in positions. We are seeing a bit of a question mark as to what's going on here for the positioning here, as Wilson seemingly used quantum teleportation techniques, and we saw Holmberg, who has completely disappeared from the lobby, briefly show up in P1. So I think we have just seen a disconnection from Holmberg here. A bit unfortunate if so. We'll have to sort of wind back the clocks and see exactly what happened there. Play function is green. Let's in fact try and see what happened. So this is Holmberg's last recorded POV, the replay, before he went into the Shadow Realm. See a bit of a bug out here. And oh, okay, big lock up on the front. Looks like there's some kind of major technical issue requiring him to stop immediately. Very sudden. Hope all is okay. Hope all's okay in the realm of Berg, but back on track. Björklund challenging for that P20 spot. Here's Morrison. Despite being completely separate classes, Björklund needs to get by here. Utmost importance to carrying out attack on the rest of the field in his actual segment. Looks like there was a tiny bit of contact between himself and the Lexus. Morrison has got a incident/contact warning flag. Now those little warnings don't necessarily say who did it. It does not imply that Morrison was at fault, but just that he got into contact, and the stewards are almost waving that virtual flag to say, hey, there's been contact, be wary. Be wary of the drivers around you. Holmes facing down on Bowler. Bowler holding on to his P3 like his life depends on it. One of the few drivers that we've seen in relative class position not see major shift. Everyone else, to an extent, has had some jumping up and down. Ramon Lorenzo, a lot of visual damage on his Porsche. I think jumping briefly across one of the curbs and getting a yellow flag. It can get very dicey out there. This may be virtual racing, but by no means is it any less real. Drivers are still putting in 110% to guarantee those results on race day. All the work and prep they can muster, although Nick Cullen, very rough. Tamburello chicane, having to be hot on the heels defensively as Verfart and Larson, they're both going to challenge for it. Larson going very aggressive. He's going to try and make it two almost, but there is Cullen quickly getting on the defensive. He skates his rear axle around the exit of the Tamburello and Villeneuve chicanes respectively. He's looking a little bit out of sorts, but he's still holding the line. Larson is not going to be taking that one lightly, though. You can see how close he is trying to read the movements of that McLaren, and he just can't get a window yet. Going to be still hot on the heels of Larson, so there is no resting on laurels to be found here. Aston, you can see, hungry as ever, getting right up close and personal through Ravazza, that double left-hander, trying to tee himself up for an overtake, heading into lap 14. Stuff here for the Lexus, as the Aston is going to really be closing in hot. Hellstrom heads into the pits as we have Verfart sneaking a look at the inside apex, but he can't confirm the move. I think just superior line work there from Larson, holding him at bay. Just simply not having the proximity needed. There's going to be an big dart there for the Aston. He's going to take a risk, jump it over the curbs almost, but he has it. He is going to invalidate track limit, so that might be a problem for later if he keeps that up. But as far as it stands now, he's in the single digits. Larson's been demoted to P10. Verfart P9. Bourne coming through, P15, and hot on the heels of James Payton in his McLaren. Aggressive run here. Could serve him well. Standing by and observing these two, Just trying to get into the mind of Bourne here, see if where he's pushing the car a bit much, trying to close the distance physically, even if that puts him at sort at the exit. Always that risk factor when you go on the offensive. One false move and you haven't got recourse. You haven't got a safety net. The defensive driver has a safety net because the attacker still has to physically get around the other car. There is a little bit of inherent defender's advantage sometimes when it comes to these kind of challenges. Bourne has got no such luxury. Still coming in hot. Curiously, at the lead of the race, Liam Blom has crossed the 1 second barriers, 1.4 seconds away from Guillemard, who himself is 1.6 and counting from Grosges in P3. Guillemard's looking to try and reassert himself as a championship contender. He's had a little bit of a tumultuous opening to the season with, say, a did not start, completely counteracting his 41 points, his first place finish at the start in Paul Ricard. Was not present for Kota, and at this stage of the game that is quite a big detriment. It makes it look like he's much further behind than he actually is. Sometimes consistency is key, and that can extend to something as fundamental as attendance. There will be, by the time we get to later half of the season, there will be drop rounds to try and equal it. So we have 41 cars remaining on the circuit. And with that comes question. As we come to the halfway point of the race, we have 10 drivers who have gone in for the pits, including Mike Foxall, who's just gone in for, I believe, a second time. And 31 cars who have yet to do so. Who's going to tee up when? This crucial changeover point of the race is effectively going to set simultaneous races in motion. Small microcosms of the racetrack reserved for battles that might get postponed and then resumed either side of a pit stop. Oh, no, Bourne. We were tracking you for so long. It was going so well, and you just lose the car at the back tail end of the chicane. Now, this is what we were saying, folks. I'm sorry, I didn't have much of a reaction. I was just almost sort of swimming in the moment. But this is what we mean about how throttle control and how control of the car has to be so finely tuned and precise here. It cannot, even for a second, take your eye off the ball. One too aggressive throttle push and that could be as much as your car entirely round. It's very easy to mess things up here at Imola. There is no such thing as safety nets, and that is just in racing. It's not even just looking at field as a collective. That is simply individual performances. It's got to be right. A massive cohort of field drivers now heading into the pits. We have McNair, Larson, Bourne, Serrano and Eade coming in and in various stages of their pit stop tenure. McNair is going to be first out of that cohort. He's going to rejoin the track, I believe, in P24. Just rolling through. Iron Brew gets you through. So Smith might take a last second swiper position. 25th. Is where McNair re-emerges. Now McNair has a crucial opportunity here. See the others are peeling out behind him in pit lane. McNair, if he nails these next couple of laps, he could stand to gain some serious time on the competition. He's had a very quick pit stop, one of the sort of quickest out of the entire field so far, so he shouldn't squander that advantage. In fact, I believe he has had one of the highest, if not the highest, speed pit stops overall, the best time. 42 second plus a 32.2 second actual stop time. Sort of Hamby, who got through the lane slightly faster at a couple of tenths. He lost half a second still. Don't squander this advantage, McNair. Make it count. Here's Lenatus, Wiggle, Lang and Morrison. Next cohort of drivers heading into the pits. Many drivers choosing to stay out much longer. Gayamar, he's managed to close in within a second of Liam Blom now. So crucially, I think he's either pushing or Liam Blom has started to waver and falter. Has allowed Gayamar to catch up to the tune of about half a second. That half a second is very crucial because that could be the difference between overtaking coming out the pit lane or even under or overcutting versus being truly out of range. Margins matter. Like there's a bit of a squeeze. Both drivers are going to be swiftly darting into the pit lane. Looks like the two of them got very close, and those margins are going to get ever smaller as himself, Gayamar and Grosges all head into the pit lane now. The top three all in. And that is going to mean many of the top brass of the field are going to follow suit. Zintas, Nick Coulin, therefore is going to be having a bit of a going against the grain by remaining out. 18 laps strong means out on field. Maybe going for a bit of an overcut by a couple of laps. Soon to be big opportunity. Field is going to start converging as more than half of them have now taken pit stops. We're going to see a mass exodus into the pit lane as everyone from Coulin down to Holmes, over 10 drivers now in the pits. Liam Blom is going to emerge out first. Gayamar very closely behind. You can see just from the helicam here, the proximity is very, very narrow. Surge between the two drivers as they have been drawn very close together, and crucially the two come out into traffic. This is make or break at this point, folks, because now they have to get through this traffic and get through it fast. It is Gayamar trying to quickly displace the McLaren that was ahead of him. Luckily, there has been a quick run here for Mr. Liam Blom as trying to get an exact ID on which cars they were just up against. I believe that is Sean Murphy. No, Sean O'Neill's in the Mustang. Come out of the pit lane as well. That's going to be by the number 60 of Tommy Hellstrom. They're going to be duking it out as Hellstrom is effectively challenging for P5 now. Relative position earlier. It's sad to see that he's dropped a lot of spots, but he's still fighting as hard as ever. It's going to get undercut by Grosges here as Nisbet is yet to take a pit stop. Himself, Dismakes are the only drivers yet to do so. Björklund, Verfa, Arscombe all heading into the pits now. And with that, the last crucial pieces of the puzzle are going to be heading in. Nisbet is going to jump in as well. And in sort of trademark fashion. And as an established theme at this point, Dismakes remains out, and often does remain out until about the 20-minute mark, just before. And I think it's a very interesting perspective with that Porsche consistently go out later than the others. That has proven to be a mixed bag in terms of results. Sometimes it really plays in his favour. He's able to jump a few positions. Other times it can get a little bit hazy, especially starts to lose grip and time. Björklund hits, I do believe, and that is the majority, if not the entire field. I haven't completed them, with the exception of one. Is it going to be hot on the heels of Guillemard, as Guillemard has not done so hot in terms of holding time. The Lindblom, you can see much further ahead, and in fact using the Audi between them to separate. That is going to be Craig Holmes, yes. Holmes going to be the dividing factor between Guillemard and Lindblom right now, and positioning is key. We'll still see some challenges around the field, despite the pit stop generally giving a bit of a shake-up while maintaining equilibrium. Wilson on the back of Björklund, for example, heading into the chicane. There's something to be said about Imola effectively breaking down to multiple chicanes complex. Which races. There is the spacing, which is, I think, part of what makes this track work. You get a chance to breathe between major skill checks of the track. I mean, even this sort of start-finish straight, you get a big chance to sort of tee up and overtake. Just naturally tee up and overtake into the first chicane. You get a moment to breathe after Tamburello before you jump into Villeneuve. Everything has a little bit of a break-up to it. The number 39 of Derek Neve, you just saw there jumping across the grass a little bit, and looks like that was a bit of a wobble there, as he's recomposed but in P40. A bit further down as well, we do have Mr. Wolfsteiner in P5, currently trying to track and beat some of the silver runners. Rough innings here so far for the Ferrari pilot. 5 in the standings for gold. And so far it looks like he might be dropping down a few pegs. There's effectively, I think, P13 for the gold class right here. Actually, no, saying that is P12 because Dismaquez remains resolute on his initial tyres and fuel load. As we lap around the track one more time, he finally jumps into the pits at the end of lap 21. That is going to call time on the longest stint of the day. Dropping back down the order as he's going to be losing about a minute and 10 seconds on average. I would say actually more, it's closer to 75 seconds rather than 70. Release, that's what we see from the fairly optimized. Best one we have seen so far on the grid. Which I do still believe is McNair's. McNair has done well indeed because he stands in P5. P5 right now. Apologies for the slight audio fluctuations. Experimenting with a bit of camera, with microphone positioning. Yielded interesting results. And I move from very specific positions, even just a couple of inches, the volume goes. Tinkering a bit with the kit to make sure we get just. Coolan, the back of Zintars, we'll check in with him in just a moment. But has got 4.3 seconds away from a wiggle. It's going to be one of the Smiths, just sort of breaking up between them. McNair is on the cards for a very solid P5 result here today. Held his head down, able to keep the composure on the track, and to make very good points out of it. But out in hot. Coolan has dropped back behind Zintars a little bit for the time being, so we'll hold off on checking on those two, as Verfart could be teeing up for a move for an attack here. It looks like he might be doing just that. Going to materialize into a substantial hit. Just patience is a virtue, and these drivers know it well. Gain here, say Homer. Target, and having been overtaken, at this point the drivers just want to minimize risks and take it on. There is an element of a sunk cost at this stage of the race. You're 40 minutes in. The last thing you need is to be overzealous and get yourself in trouble. For a lot of drivers, after a certain point, especially once you get into within the final, say 10 minutes of a race, you either go into one or two camps. Go safe or you go. There is Marsh going off the side of the track there. Unfortunately, he's going to leave himself wide open. As where is the locator has gone off the face of the earth here. Ah, here we go. Marsh left himself wide open. So Coolan is about a second away. Goes off the side of the lane, and Larson is going to be really pushing his buttons as Verfart is going to be under attack. Verfart is going to hold the inside line and really sort of keep the elbows firmly out. Minor bump between the two, as I think that was the McLarens at the back. They got Sean Murphy. David Smith is going to have a local yellow flag for him. As he might, he even goes as far as putting two wheels on the grass. Not going to be able to hold on the position the whole time. Certainly intent on getting it back. You can see how much he's trying to dip around the Lexus, but he's not going to be able to have it just yet. Leonard chased and overtaken by Björklund. Room for error is high 0. There is going to be lots of opportunity. Anyone who makes a mistake, if you don't lose multiple engines. As simply put, that's what the margins here are. Colin said it best, heading into the race, 1.8 seconds. Top 30. Ridiculously tight margins here, to say the least. Taking a look from Larson's wing. Ever-present Aston. Using to budge, really pushing the car. You can see a bit of slide over the Tamburello chicane, turn 3. See him lose a tiny bit of speed. Two wheels on the curbs, losing a good chunk of time, unfortunately. Big chance, big push. Larson's chance to make a bit of a breakaway, and he's going to take it. Verfart down, chance to get back into the fight with Dave Marsh. And we've seen that Marsh has made mistakes, so any more pressure, this could put him at his wit's end. It could put him at a big compromise and put him the position. Artis might be in a bit of a same spot. You've got Wardner just up ahead of him in the Beamer. That BMW. Half a second split. A well-positioned, well-meaning challenge is going to be what it takes. I'm going to see a brief hiccup with the timing board. Apologies for that. Getting that fixed. Chasing Marsh and now really starting to close the gap here. Verfart is remaining in these sort of high margins, potentially at the risk of falling out of a second. Here's going to be Bourne and Homer going for a bit of a back and forth. Homer tucks in behind. But the positions are settled for now. Who's going to take the next big swing? I think time is of the essence, so you're either going to hunker down and preserve what you have, or put it on the line. High risk, high reward, right? Put it on and see where you come out on top. Out strong. 41 remaining cars. Final push. 15 minutes to go. Torn out there. Driving strategy with the pits. Short of any major incidents, that pit lane is effectively closed. Mentioned we don't enforce a mandatory pit window, but do see the general trends. Drivers tend to fall within the 35 to 20 minute mark, or say 25 minute mark, if you are discounting the outlier that is dislocated. It has re-emerged in P34, by the way, which I think puts that in P9. Yeah, I believe that does put him in P9 because Bowler has had quite the surge in position. He's been able to push himself up to the lead of the bronze class. Compare that to North, currently in P7. That could be quite the upset in this championship, if I do say so. But folks, we have got ourselves a double winner, and then Arscombe is in P5. So he's not going to have the points difference to be able to steal the championship away from him so quickly. But he does still have quite the push. He'll have quite a position. At present, Arscombe will close his gap to North, expand his gap to Zimmer. There are a few drivers who we haven't seen or may not see make it to the finish. For example, Gabbett will be making a show, but Bowler certainly jump into P4, if not potentially P3. Could be a good amount of play here. What he has in store. 12 minutes, 40 seconds. There's Verfart playing spectator as Marsh and Larson duke it out into the first corner. We do have an incident between the number 49 and 180 cars. Rewind the clocks back in a moment just to go down. From Verfart's perspective, watch how Marsh and Larson are going to squabble back and forth. The opportunity this presents itself for the Aston. Seizing your moment. That's what you've got to do. Seize the moment as it arrives, as it comes. Bit of a slide there, and a big loss of speed there. Marsh is right out in the open, and it's going to effectively concede both the fight to Larson and the position to Verfart. That's a heck of a concession there for the NSX driver. Chances are running out. I wonder what the rest of the field are going to do with that information. 7 minutes on the clock, that equates to about 6 more laps, give or take. Say about 6 more laps. See coming up to the line, a little bit of space being challenged is Sean O'Neill. There is going to be Björklund getting very close. That's one of the Smiths yielding position. Yielding the space. I believe that was David Smith or Peter. Times, I believe, yes, that was David. Wilson going for a challenge on Robert Homer. Sean O'Neill along with Björklund, the two continuing to duke it out. The driver's briefly disappearing off my end of the timesheet as the telemetry has a slight freak out. A bit of fart is going to go all in on the chicane though, and it gets dicey. The two go practically side by side. You just don't see that through this section. Eventually, you see just why we don't see that. There is Verfart into the grass out of the exit of chicane out of turn 15. Has to concede not only to the others, but to Larson, Marsh, Coulin. They're all going to be taking advantage of that blunder there. Coulin less so, he's much further ahead, but certainly Larson and Marsh. Costly blunder. Well, I say, mighty impressed with the drivers who have been able to make a full comeback, a massive surge in standings coming out of this one. So we've got, so far, Lindblom in the lead of gold, Wildner in the lead of silver, and yes, we're just on board with the second to go, Bowler in the lead of bronze. Oh, big jumps on drivers. Very much a successful campaign so far. Everyone goes into these seasons with different aims. Obviously, when you look at your championship contenders, your GMRs, your Wolfsoners, your Lindbloms, and the gold side of things, they're going to look to take titles. But for some drivers, expectations might be a bit different. Maybe even a podium, maybe just a top 5. Maybe even getting promoted a class in the start of the season and not coming last is the target enough. All a manner and a matter of perspective. Chance, personal reasons for drivers to come out with maybe bragging rights, or even just as simple as saying that you competed in a championship. There is, of course, one's own reason, incentives for driving here, but however you slice it, it's an absolute pleasure to see all these maestros take to the racetrack. Oh, still looking pretty roughed up in that Porsche there. That front bumper is definitely something that's seen better days. Look at it. Definitely seen better days. I mean, you look at the likes of Bowler, for example, has completely cleared himself from the others in the field, to the point where he's more on the back of silver than he is at the front of the bronze. A bit of a paradigm shift in this Ferrari's case. Would have put such a sizable advantage on him. might as well be in a different bracket right now. But as mentioned, no one can truly rest on their laurels. It's just as quick to lose as it is to gain. And oh, that is Derek Neve off the side of the track. You just saw in the foreground there. He comes to a complete halt. Something's gone wrong with the Aston, I believe. Either that or this could be... Oh no, we are rolling again. We are moving again. Just a mistake in taking extra precautions for the rejoin. In that case, that is fair. That is safe. Bearfart's closing in real hot. Once again, pushing the car to its very limit. Even so far as getting two wheels on the grass and dirt. But to see pressure built up upon. Getting mighty close. Coming throughout Aqua Minerales, Marsh trying to take his time, take that measured approach. We've got this constant sort of pounding at the back. Continually knocking on a door to say, let me in, hello, I'm here, hold your position. Therefore, even putting enough pressure to where Marsh makes a brief mistake out of the chicane, but thanks to his positioning, wasn't given any windows of opportunity. Okay. See, it's similar, just slightly further up, as Lang is hot on the heels of McNair, going to try and take away his top 5. How is McNair going to respond? He goes narrow. He holds the apex. Like he's going to be getting a very tight line around the Tamburello chicane, holding a nerve. Very well executed. Is Marsh and Verfort, and oh no! The two clearly came together, and both of them emerging off into the grass and gravel. Marsh is going to be coming out of that one worse. Let's take a bit of a wind back of the clock. So let's take the helicopter and see exactly what happened between these two. So this is Marsh versus Verfart. Once again, the two of them, they're coming up on Randy Zimmer, but that's not really important. Verfart goes for the outside, heads heavy on the brakes. Kind of, sort of both of them, that's tough to call. Because space was sort of still left, but then they make contact about halfway through the corner. You could just as much argue that Marsh was not as tight to the apex as it could have been. And you get a bit of a grey situation like the one we just had. Lang going for a very aggressive cut over the chicane. Try and chase down McNair. Hasn't quite worked out, but crucially as well, here comes Guillemard chasing down on Lindblom. He's going to go for an attack on the lead. Side by side through the Tamburello chicane, very aggressive on the curbs. Here's Guillemard holding as much as he can in terms of pressure, but Lindblom is having none of it. Gets ahead back again through Tamburello into Villeneuve. Could there be a chance at attack? I don't think so. I think he's dipping back. I think he's choosing preservation. Holding on for the time being. Now we've got about 2 laps left, folks. This lap, and then potentially one more. The fastest lap is a 1:40.4, so if we get to below that time on the timing board, then this is our second to last lap, and the next lap will be our final. Could be close. Predictive tech. Back end of ACC. Still one of the best in class, even if we are seeing, not end of life, but sort of seeing the service that is ACC be sunsetted. Whatever way you slice it, still one of the best that we've got. Verfart and Marsh continue to trade blows. I'm getting the incident warnings left, right and centre between these two. A budding rivalry almost, it seems like. So here we are, coming up to the line. Final lap is going to be confirmed. Lindblom is going to be leading heading into this one, but is Guillemard going to go for another bite? 0.4 of a second, split the two. Guillemard's coming in hot. He goes to the inside. He's darting for the corner. He wants and is hungry to make it happen despite a wider line. Lindblom still holds firm grip on the position thus far. Big pushes from both drivers, but it's gonna have to come to a head very, very soon. This could get dicey. Remember, the impatience of drivers is not to be trifled with. See back markers dipping out the way. Very close to contact. Throughout this last lap, these two duking it out, having a bit of a squabble, a back and forth. Coming in hot, potentially, through Aqua Minerale. Looks like it's actually been dropped time out of Piratella. One is in his sights. Make it happen, though. Gonna be close. Final chicane before we get to Rivazza. Like Lindblom may have this, folks. Looks like he might have it. And never say never, but time is about to elapse. This is the final lap. It's the final couple of corners as well. Guillemot is close, but it's not enough. He's tried to get the perfect exit, but he's lost the rear axle ever so slightly. He's dropped out of proximity. Guillemot has dropped his last chance. And Lindblom, as he comes up to the line, has taken the checkered flag. So another win on the try. His second win of the season thus far, coming out of Circuit of the Americas. Imola has also been conquered by the NSX. Guillemot is going to come in with a very hot and close second, so that's going to make him with a first and a second, so a 2 out of 3 podium record with the did not start of round 2. And Grosges, the defending championship leader, might be under a bit of pressure as he's got another third place. So still holding a perfect podium record similar to Lindblom, but the positions aren't stacking up. And they're going to have to ultimately result in him eventually relinquishing the lead of the championship. Feeling the rest of the field now coming through. This is going to be Wildner, who has taken the silver spot and done a very impressive job of tonight's race. 8th position, but this is going to be a healthy dose of points here for the BMW driver, as Serrano is in 2nd place, 7th in the championship, 3 points ahead of Wildner. This is going to be also a very big boon for him. Alongside Linatus has also up here, despite it did not start, had consistently good points, and now currently stands to gain a lot more with the 3rd position and a whole 35 to take home. Moving over to the bronze, and finally it's going to be Wayne Bowler takes home the checkered flag, breaking the perfect record held by Alex North, and he's going to be having a very nice dose of 4 points to his name. Slingshot him quite high up the standings. 2nd place is going to go to Craig Morrison, and that is going to be very useful for him, as Morrison is actually towards the very bottom of the standings. He's got 8 points in his first race, and then it did not start. -2 for penalties, you get him down to 6, and this will be quite the help that he needs with 38 in the pocket. Finally, it's going to be Daniel Groch in 3rd place, and another solid result. So we've seen a lot of drivers in the bronze who have had middling results in prior rounds and middling results in the championship really have a chance to prove. So got Cramper, had to pit, race was ruined after that. Sorry to hear, but still good job out of the situation, did a very good job overall. Then McNair, worth mentioning McNair, P5, very, very good race had by all. Now, this is where we sign off for the time being, folks. Now, don't be too disheartened, because we have got quite the location to show you next time. It is going to be none other than the Nordschleife. That's right, folks. Head to the Green Hell next time, next week. Same time, next Tuesday. The track that is notorious as it is feared. You have the GP section, but then you head out. Beautiful multiple kilometer stretch. the ultimate driving challenge, and the race is only going to get more intense from there. But that's where we call it for the time being, folks. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and have a good rest of your day and good rest of your week. We'll see you same time next week. Go to Crown the Queen Hell, 4th round of the season. Take care once again, and good night.